Young the Giant. Does that mean anything to you? What about cough syrup? If this isn't making any sense, then stick around, because I have an introduction to make.
Life's too short to even care at all.
Young the Giant is an alternative rock band from Irvine, California. Originally known as the Jakes, they changed their name in the early 2010s. Led by Samir Gadia, the band decided to put a hold on school to pursue music. This led to the band roster taking its final shape of the 5 members that it still has today. Although I labeled the band alternative rock, they don't really fit into one genre. All of its members are either immigrants or children of immigrants, which reflects on their music throughout their discography. The first of that being their self-titled album, Young the Giant. This self-titled album is still their most commercially successful. It includes standout singles like My Body, Cough Syrup, and Apartment, all of which charted in the US and alternative rock charts. The album was recorded live to keep the sound authentic to what they could reproduce in front of a live audience. The second single from the band, Cough Syrup, was my introduction to the band. I was hooked immediately from the upbeat anthem of My Body to the somber feel of Apartment, and even the deeper cuts like Island. This album would become a mainstay on my iPod Touch in high school, and I'd say it's a good place to start your musical discovery. Following the release, the band would do key performances on Jimmy Kimmel, South by Southwest, and the MTV Video Music Awards, all which would broaden their exposure to a wider audience. I specifically remember their MTV performance. Samir was jumping into the crowd, and I was excited that this local band was on a national stage, following up superstars like Lady Gaga, Kanye, and Adele. All this was immediately followed up by multiple tours, which led into their second album. Their sophomore effort, titled Mind Over Matter, the band takes its title quite literally as it faces the pressure of their newfound fans and success. What is maybe the band's most mainstream album, it takes a much more polished but aggressive stance. It has many more guitar-driven anthems and electronic influence in such songs as It's About Time and It's High Energy, or the title track. As well, they incorporate beautiful strings and synths in songs like Firelight and Camera. This was by far the band's highest charting album, with its dancier feel and heavier rhythm and groove. They definitely had touring on their mind when they wrote this album, and I remember wanting to go to one of their shows at this time, but I didn't have any friends that showed any interest, nor the money to pay for the tickets. Their third album, Home of the Strange, would take their sound in a whole different direction. One that better represents the band's multicultural identity, taking a more experimental approach and leaving the classic rock structure with songs like Mr. Know-It-All and America, going with a funk and groove with heavier bass lines on songs like Silver Tongue and Jungle Youth. While I liked the album, my interests at this time were on other genres, so I didn't appreciate it till much later. Mirror Master, the title of their fourth album, blends the synth-pop elements of their second project with the experimental themes from their third, redefining them and polishing them into something new. This marks a shift in the band's direction, introducing yet another distinct sound. Superposition, the lead track, gives you a psychedelic feel that's present throughout the album, while Heat of the Summer gives you a distressed beach vibe. You also can get lost in the spacey feel of Panoramic Girl, or go back to funk and dance with Tightrope. Now for some, this might have been too much of a departure from the guitar-heavy rock days, but for me, this was a natural progression, and if your earlier work wasn't your cup of tea, then I feel like this is the perfect album for you. The following year, after the release of Mirror Master, I would finally get the chance to see them in concert. It was during their summer tour when they sold out the Forum, and I can say with confidence that they are even better live and that they play with a ton of energy, and they have become some of my favorite live performers to see. So much so that I've seen them 5 more times since then, and if you're a fan, you have to go see them yourself. I cannot recommend it enough. That brings us to their most recent album, American Bollywood. Originally released in several acts, it later got a full release as American Bollywood. The album is more akin to Home of the Strange and takes its inspiration and themes from Samir's Indian culture. Overall, it takes a lot of global influences and it is telling a very personal story, like in tracks The Walk Home and Tomorrow. I like the experimentation on My Way and Happy, but overall I don't come back to this project as much as I do with their other work. I hope they continue with all the instrumentation they incorporate here, but I just don't think thematically this was made for me. But that doesn't mean it wasn't made for you. And that brings us to 2025 and all their releases up to this point. But I've been leaving one thing out. When they released their first album, they started a series called In the Open. It's a collection of raw video performances of many of their popular songs. These videos give an intimate acoustic performance that often, in my own opinion, is better than the original. So if you're new or a fan that hasn't listened to these, I cannot recommend it enough. That's all I got. Please let me know what you thought about the video. Tell me what your favorite song is. If you haven't already, please like it and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more. Thanks for watching.
Time don't show.